We are now going to take you to Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who gave this speech in Tumbiumbi a short time ago.
Who loves the Central Coast and the hunter. I know Nell McGill does. I know Brooke Vitnell does, coming from a mining family. I know Lucy Wicks does, who has been such a trooper for the Central Coast over such a long period of time. Lucy Wicks. Where's Katrina? Katrina Walk. Katrina, thank you for what you've done as a nurse in our country, in your community. Thank you for standing with us as our Liberal candidate there in Newcastle. We are so proud of what you've been doing, and I'm so pleased you're on my team along with Nell and Brooke and Lucy and the whole team. And, of course, where's Michael? Here he is. Welcome, Michael. Michael is someone, like the bloke's just sitting a few over here, the General, who has risen to the peak of his profession. To the peak of his profession. If my left arm starts feeling a bit wobbly, I know where I'm going. I'm going to see Michael Fennelly. He is someone who served his entire life dedicated to the service of others. And now he wants to put that to work for the people of the Central Coast here in Dobell. Thank you very much, Michael, for being here and being part of our team. I'm so pleased you're on my team. And to Holly and Jim, it's great to have you here. It's great to see you do the great work you've been doing up here in the Central Coast and the Hunter. Jim, I was thinking about you the other night in the debate. I expect you know the bit I was thinking about when Anthony Albanese was trying to recreate a bit of history about what was happening with border protection back before the 2013 election. Now, Jim and I have been through a fair bit together over the years, haven't we, Jim? But going back prior to the 2013 election, I turned to Jim as the then Shadow Immigration Minister because we were going through as a country at that time the worst border protection failures this country had ever seen, even worse than what we saw what was happening when the Howard government had to fix it all those years ago. And so I'd met Jim some years before, and together Jim and I worked together to create what is now known, not just here in Australia, but around the world, of Operation Sovereign Borders. Now, when we came to government, we put that in place, and it worked. There are three components, Anthony, if you're paying attention. Three components to stop the boats. One, don't get rid of temporary protection visas. Two, make sure you have offshore processing that works. And three, you turn back the boats and you know how to do it. See, prior to that election, we worked hard on our plans, didn't we, Jim? We worked hard on our plans in national security. We worked hard on our plans on border security. We knew what to do. And when people asked us about our plans before that election, I could explain them. I could tell you the A to the Z of our policies. I could explain the plans that I was responsible for, as could our colleagues, as we went to that election. And we were successful at that election, and we did stop the boats, and we did turn our economy around, and we did get rid of the carbon tax, and we did all the things that we said we were going to do, and we're still doing them, most importantly. That's what we're doing. But since the last election, Australia has known the toughest times that we have seen since the Second World War and the Great Depression. None of us, I think, at the time of the last election could have imagined the trials that not only Australia would face, but indeed the whole world would face. And here in Australia, as you would have heard in the video before I came out here, there were the added trials of fires, of floods, of cyclones. Here in New South Wales, we even had terrible mice plagues. It has been an extraordinarily tough last 3 years, and particularly the last 2 years. But you know, all the way through that period of time, if you cast your mind back to the last election, Australians made a choice at that last election. They made the choice to put back in a government and to elect me as Prime Minister based on some very simple principles that we took to the people at the last election. That we wanted Australians to keep more of what they earn. That we wanted Australians who are having a go to get a go. And as we faced those trials over these last couple of years, what we did as a country and what we did as a government backed in Australians. Every single thing that we did over the last 2-3 years was based on one big principle, and that was, we believe in the resilience of Australians, in the determination of Australians, and we know if we back Australians in as a government, Australia can come through anything. And we have proved that in the last 3 years. Australians have excelled in a way that previous generations have excelled. And in the test of our generation in this nation at this time, under the leadership of our government, Australia today is leading the world. And there's a reason we've been able to do that, is because as a government we understand something very fundamental about how our country can succeed in the future. And many of you have got that right there on those boards. A strong economy is and means a stronger future. There are plenty of things that people who go into politics like to talk about. There are plenty of things that they aspire to, and they go in with great motivation, and they may be filled with all sorts of goals. But I can tell you from experience that unless you understand if you want to run a country, unless you understand that if you want to run a government successfully, if you do not understand that principle, that a stronger economy means a stronger future, then you will fail. If you don't understand the economy, if you don't know how it works, if you can't ensure that your plans and policies grow that economy, get people off welfare, get them into work, then you will fail. And we've seen that with Labor governments in the past. That doesn't mean they haven't had good-natured ideas. It doesn't mean they haven't had good intentions. I suspect and believe that they have. But the thing that matters in government is that you can do it, not that you talk about it. And that's what we've always been as Liberals and Nationals in government over so many years. We know how to run governments. We know how to get things done. We know how to deliver programs. And we do that because we know it's all driven by a strong economy, and that's what delivers the stronger future. And so here we are today, almost 3 years since the last election. Almost 7 years since the last time the Sharks won the premiership. Just so. Looking good this year, though. It's looking good this year. 3 years since the last election. And where does Australia stand? We have 400,000 more people in work today than we had before the pandemic hit. It's true.